Make Walters your spot, not only before and after every game at Nationals Park, but Walters also is right by Audi Field, and DC United, the Washington Spirit, and the DC Defenders are all in season.
Hi, Ryan Reynolds here for Mint Mobile. Are you looking for a beach read this summer? May I suggest your big wireless bill? It's got suspense, mystery, a slightly flat, emotional arc, and a shocking twist where you realize you've been overpaying the entire time. Fortunately, though, Mint's story is better. Every plan, $15 a month. Even unlimited. That's it. Happy ending. Zero tears. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.
Here's the set. Check on the runner. Burns deals. Swing a line drive, base hit, left center field. Cruz rounding third. He's being waved home. Bleday's throw to the plate is not in time. Head first dive. Dylan Cruz scores. The Nationals back in front, 3-2. They're going crazy here at Nationals Park. Dalen Lyle delivers after the Cruz double and RBI single. The Nationals answer back here in the bottom of the 6th inning. A long hold and the delivery. Swing a hard ground ball, fair past the drawn-in third baseman Hayes, down the line. Lyle scores, Ruiz scores, Nunez flying home, the relay to the plate, the tag is applied, and Nunez is out standing up. So it'll be a 2-run double as Chaparro is at second, and the Nationals lead at 5-2.
Now the kick and the pitch. Swinging a line drive to right field. That's going to fall a base hit. Bibas around third being waved home. Throw to the plate. Could not be handled by Trevino. He tries to pick it up. He's blocked the plate. And Bibas is ruled safe. He fell on the plate trying to pick up the ball. And the Nationals lead 7-2. The throw was going to beat him. But Trevino couldn't handle the hop.
And welcome to Nats Chat. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. I'm joined by Washington Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman of NatsJournal.com. He is at Nationals Park, and the Washington Nationals now are 3-1 since their 7-game losing streak. An 8-2 win over the Cincinnati Reds at Nationals Park on Saturday evening in Game 2 of a 3-game series, the first game of which was a 5-3 win over the Reds on Friday night. So the Nats, over the first 2 games of this series, have scored 13 runs. Is the offense back on track? So far, so good for the offense in this series. The Nats in MLB's 2026 regular season now are 58-61, run differential of plus 18. The Reds now are 56-60. with a run differential of minus 68. We, via this podcast, offer shout-outs, messages that you write and we read, $25 each. Think of a shout-out like a message on the scoreboard at Nationals Park. Email us for more info, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. A lot to like from this win on Saturday evening. How about this? The Nats went a sparkling 6 for 7 with runners in scoring position. Starting pitcher Andrew Alvarez did well. The Nats bullpen did well. A quick turnaround for Game 3 on Sunday afternoon at 12:15. The Nats are going with a bullpen game for which relief pitcher Brad Lord will be the starting pitcher. But Mark, this so far has been a get-right series for the Nats. They've played really well in this series so far.
Are the Nats back, Al? Is it too soon to say that? Probably a little too soon to say that, but it has been nice to see this development over the last 2 days, and maybe it just helps not playing the Braves or Phillies, who, as we know, are 2 of the best teams in the league. The Reds, not quite so much. It's been nice to see the offense get back on track. It's been nice to see some quality pitching, both out of the rotation and out of the bullpen the last couple of nights as well. This just looked like a better all-around effort, and they needed it. 3 games under 500, still a long way to go, but they needed to feel good about something given the way that the previous 10 days had gone, and what they've done these first 2 games of the homestand absolutely leaves everybody feeling good again.
Yeah, this offensive performance on Saturday evening was a throwback performance to, 2 weeks ago when the offense was rolling. But this just felt like the Nats of earlier this season, where you had extra base hits, you had walks, you had success with runners in scoring position, you had the Nats getting to a good starting pitcher. You had a run total with a big, fat, crooked number. 8 ends up being the Nats' run total in this game. 8 runs, 10 hits, which were 4 doubles and 6 singles, 4 walks. Like I said, 6 for 7 with runners in scoring position. But before we get to the individual standouts, the Reds starting pitcher for this game was Chase Burns, who is having a tremendous season. Burns came into this game with an ERA of 2.35 over 21 games, all starts. Chase Burns, the Reds took him with the number 2 overall pick in the 2024 MLB First Year Player Draft out of Wake Forest. And the Nats, as they have done so often this season, including when the team had all of the offensive firepower, got to a good starting pitcher this time, Chase Burns. 5 runs in 5 1/3 innings ended up being his final line. What a job by the Nats against a really good starting pitcher in Chase Burns.
So you're telling me that it's possible to get an elite performance out of a number 2 pick in the draft?
Imagine that.
That is allowed? Okay, all right. I just want to make sure I heard that correctly. I'll be honest, I did not see this kind of performance coming from them against him. He dominated them earlier in the year when they met in Cincinnati, and early on, he was cruising through the first 5 batters or so. Now, the one thing they were doing well, they were working the count, making him have to work a little bit harder than he probably wanted to or expected to, and I think that paid off as the game played on. Second time through, more success. They get a big 2-run single from Abimelec Ortiz, take the lead. And then by the time they get to the 6th inning, his pitch count's up. They've all seen him now. This is the 3rd time through against him. And they just looked like they were confident at the plate in facing him. They did not chase. They kind of forced him to come to them over the plate. They took some walks. They worked some long at-bats. And then when they swung at good pitches and made hard contact. That, I think, has easily got to be the best offensive performance we've seen from them since the trades and since the loss of James Wood to injury. For this particular group of hitters to do that, I thought that was a really nice sign, and it showed that even if they don't quite have the pedigree or the talent that the lineups did a couple weeks ago, they are capable of putting together rallies against a good opposing pitcher.
And the Nats still have the process, and we know that the process has done so many good things this season, including when it comes to pinch hitting. Andres Chaparro, he came into this game to pinch hit and DH. He went 2 for 2 with a 2-run double and an RBI single. Chaparro in the Nats' 4-run 6th, a pinch 1-out, bases loaded 2-run double to the left field corner for a 5-2 Nats lead. Also, Chaparro in the Nats' 2-run 8th, had a 2-out opposite field RBI single to right field on a 1-2 pitch for a 7-2 Nats lead. There are 2 layers to what Chaparro did on Saturday evening. Number 1 is the tear that Andres Chaparro continues to be on. His OPS now is up to 835. But the other item with Chaparro is how great he has been as a pinch hitter. And we know so much of this is how he has been deployed as a pinch hitter. But Chaparro now as a pinch hitter is 4 for 14 with 5 walks, all 4 hits, extra base hits, a home run and 3 doubles. He has a pinch hitting OPS of 1,188. You talk about picking your spots perfectly with a guy as a pinch hitter. Man, have the Nats done a great job with Chaparro in that regard, and credit to him. He has delivered as a pinch hitter big time.
That was the singular key moment of the game to me. You had just given up the 2-run lead that you had when Blake Butera played the platoon matchups with his bullpen, and it backfired spectacularly, as we will get to. But he made up for it in the bottom of the inning by doing what he does often, play the platoon matchups from an offensive standpoint. They got to Burns, they got the pitch count up, and they got Terry Francona to take him out of the game. What I found fascinating was Francona comes to take Burns out of the game. He signals to his bullpen, and it's a lefty, Sam Moll, who's going to face Jose Tena. If you've watched the Nationals at all this year, you knew he was not coming in to face Jose Tena. This played directly into Blake Butera's hands. He had Chaparro ready to go. That's exactly the matchup that Butera was hoping for. Terry Francona is a future Hall of Famer. Blake Butera beat him on that one.
Having an option like him off the bench when they bring a lefty in has been awesome for me and for us, of course. And yeah, really proud of him.
And it worked out perfectly with Chaparro. And then Jacob Young right behind him, another right-hand hitter with the RBI single to keep that rally going. So there are things about the platooning that the Nats are doing, I guess, from the pitching side of things and sometimes from the hitting side too, that I sometimes question and they haven't always worked out. In this case, this was exactly what the Nats wanted. It was both the platoon advantage, but really it just boiled down to this. what would you rather have? Andres Chaparro facing a lefty reliever, Sam Moll, or Jose Tena facing one of the best right-handers in the league in Chase Burns? Clearly, you want the Chaparro matchup. They executed that one perfectly, and I was glad to see that one pay off.
They did, and it's a funny deal because I was actually going to bring up Terry Francona is a future Hall of Famer, right? I mean, we all would agree on that. The fact that Blake Butera outmanages Terry Francona in this game, at least in that spot, that really was something. But Chaparro is just so locked in. It's crazy how at various points this season we have had different Nats players just on fire, right? And Andres Chaparro may well be the hottest Washington National right now. Also coming through for the Nats in this game, we had C.J. Abrams. He's the Nats starting shortstop and number one batter, 2 for 5 double and an RBI single. He and the Nats 2-run eighth had a 2-out full count RBI single to center field for an 8-2 Nats lead. Abimelec Ortiz, he is the Nats starting first baseman and number 2 batter, 1 for 4 with a 2-run single. And if you watch this was something. Ortiz in the Nats 2-run third had a 1-out opposite field 2-run single through the left side of the infield on an 0-2 pitch to put the Nats up 2-0. The single per StatCast had an exit velocity of just 70.6 miles per hour and an expected batting average of just 150. But a hit is a hit, and that was a 2-run single for Ortiz in that spot. We had Dalen Lyle, who had a really nice game on Friday night, coming through with an RBI single in this game. Lyle as the Nats starting left fielder, a number 4 batter, 1 for 4 RBI single. Lyle in that Nats 4-run sixth, opposite field RBI single into left field for a 3-2 Nats lead. Look, Curtis Mead gone, Luis Garcia Jr. gone, James Wood 10-day injured list. This is what the Nats need, multiple people contributing. You got that to near perfection in this game. Like this game, if you could script how the Nats need to do offense now, realistically speaking, with the departures, this is how you do it. And the Nats really came through in this game.
Yeah, even though Chaparro didn't replace Ortiz, Chaparro was the DH and Ortiz stayed in the game. Basically, your 2 first basemen, the guys who in theory are replacing Luis Garcia, combined for 3 hits and 5 RBI in the game. You can't ask for more than that. That was fantastic to see. It has been great to see Dalen Lyle get hot again. Maybe he just needs to face the Reds. I mean, he has killed the Reds this year, both there and now here. Yovanny Cruz double and a couple other hard outs as well. You mentioned the Ortiz, the single at 70 miles an hour. He also scorched a ball to center field his next at bat. He's putting together some good quality at bats in just a short amount of time up here. It's way too early to draw any true conclusions, but there do seem to be some things to like about what he is doing for them. So it was just really impressive the way they put together some of these at bats. Some of that against the bullpen later on, but I think especially against one of the best pitchers in the league in Burns that set the stage for what was going to come later in the game.
And how many times this season have we seen the Nats get to 8 runs without homering? The Nats did not homer in this game and yet still got to 8 runs. That's not something you see often from any team, but as I mentioned earlier, 4 doubles for the Nats in this game, 4 walks, and the efficiency with runners in scoring position. It shows you how crazy of a stat that can be. But, this is the same team that routinely was going, 0 for 9, 1 for 12 with runners in scoring position. 6 for 7. That's rare that you see something like that. A runners in scoring position line for a team in a game that efficient. 6 for 7, near perfection with runners in scoring position in this game.
There's always going to be some element of it being kind of fluky when that happens on both sides of the equation, when you're 6 for 7 or when you're 0 for 11. But I do think there's something to be said for when you get one early, like they did in this game to take the lead, thanks to the Ortiz 2-run single, it takes the pressure off everybody else. You're playing out in front for the most part during the game and feeling good about your chances at the plate. When you're playing from behind and when you don't come through a few times when you have chances early, it just increases the pressure. I really do think so much of the runners in scoring position issue on that road trip was them feeling the weight of the world on their shoulders every time they come up to bat with a runner on second base. So I think sometimes when one guy breaks the dam, it makes it so much easier for everyone else. And I think you may have seen that in this game.
If you're like me, you're the kid who savored every last drop of sugary milk at the bottom of your cereal bowl while watching Saturday morning cartoons. Kachava's new flavor, Cinnamon French Toast, gives you a bit of that classic nostalgia. And I love that it's made with real cinnamon bark. It's a comfort flavor, but with benefits and without the sugary drawbacks. There's no artificial colors, flavors, or sweeteners. It's non-GMO, there's no soy, there's no animal products, no gluten, and no preservatives. But Kachava does provide all the nutrition your body craves in one deliciously simple shake with just 2 scoops. So treat yourself to a childhood favorite. Go to Kachava.com and use code SPORTS for 15% off your first order. That's Kachava, Kachava.com with code SPORTS.
27-year-old Andrew Alvarez is into the windup. The kick and the first pitch of the night on the way. It's swung on in line and caught. A sprawling catch by Nasim Nunez after a leap to grab it. What a play by Nasim Nunez on a rocket liner up the middle. Every night he does something in the field that just wows you, and he did it again, leaving his feet high in the air and then tumbling and rolling over and holding on.
So how about this with this game? Andrew Alvarez outdueled Chase Burns. Each guy went 5 1/3 innings, and Alvarez outpitched Burns big time. Andrew Alvarez in this game officially allowed 1 run in 5 1/3 innings, and the run that was charged to him was scored when he was out of the game. Alvarez gave up just 3 hits, all of which were singles, issued a walk and a wild pitch, recorded just 2 strikeouts, but as impressive as anything, as key as anything, he threw a ton of strikes. Andrew Alvarez in this game, 73 pitches, 50 strikes, just 23 balls. We will get to his exit from the game, but I thought this was the good Andrew Alvarez. This is the Andrew Alvarez you want to see, and this homerless streak that he has going really is something. This is a Nats pitching staff that gives up a ton of homers. We've talked about that. The bullpen gives up a ton of homers. The starting pitching rotation gives up a ton of homers, especially Miles Mikolas and the now DFA'd Zach Littell. Andrew Alvarez now has a streak of not allowing a home run of 51 2/3 innings. Some really good work here from Andrew Alvarez, who overall this season, as was the case last season, I think it's been more good than bad. Like, I know there are nits to pick, but I think it's encouraging what the Nats are getting from Andrew Alvarez. Definitely things to build on with this guy.
When he attacks the strike zone, he can be successful. And you saw that in this game, probably the best that he's done so far this year. When he gets into trouble, it's usually because he's nibbling around the edges, walking hitters, driving up his pitch count. As you said, he's not really prone to the home run. Well, if that's the case, throw the ball over the plate, go after them. Trust that your stuff is good enough to get these hitters out. And I think he kind of came to that realization. He said also that he tried to do a little more video study before this game than he usually does. Didn't just read the scouting report, but really looked at video of the opposing hitters, and in particular, other lefty pitchers around the league and how they went after the Reds hitters. And I think he picked up some things from that.
You know, I've been doing my studying, but I've been adding a little bit more to it and trying to watch a lot of video and just gaining confidence through that as well, like getting more visual reps on the players.
He has twice now in the last week really complimented some lessons that he learned from Foster Griffin. And they're not identical pitchers, but they're a little bit similar. He really listened to Griffin, took after him, was upset to see him leave, and is now trying to continue what Griffin taught him. And one of those things was to do more video work leading up to a game. I was really glad to see the way that he approached all that. As you said, not prone to the home run, which in my mind is all the more reason that he should have still been out there through the rest of the 6th inning. A decision that very easily could have changed the entire conversation of this game.
Yeah, it absolutely could have. One more thing, though, on Alvarez. So you look at him now, 17 games, including 9 starts. He's got a 3.76 ERA, a 1.40 whip, but he does strike guys out, 8.44 strikeouts per 9 innings, doesn't give up homers. Do you think the organization views Andrew Alvarez long-term as a starting pitcher, or do you think the thinking more is that he is a reliever for them?
I think they probably view him as a depth starter, and that could mean he's like their number 5 starter. It could also mean they view him as the guy you call up when you need help, when you need a 6th guy. Sometimes you keep that person in the big leagues in the bullpen. I'm not sure if they're mapping out their ideal 2027 rotation, that Alvarez is a part of it. The fact they sent him down a few weeks ago probably suggests that. But I'll tell you what, if he keeps attacking the zone like he did in this game and showing them that he can be successful by throwing strikes and not dancing around the edges of the zone, he will kind of force that issue and make them maybe consider him for a more prominent role. I don't think they view him necessarily that way, but he has the opportunity, and he's certainly going to have the opportunity now with openings in their rotation to make his case probably before we start to see any of these other younger options that may be coming up at some point. So good on him for taking this opportunity and running with it on Saturday night.
All right, now to the exit of Andrew Alvarez from this game. So he was doing quite well. He was only at 73 pitches, but we know that the Nats, with their new process, love the platoon. You know, one of the great movies of the 1980s was a movie called Platoon. That's got to be Paul Taboni's favorite movie of all time, Platoon. The Nats took Andrew Alvarez out of this game, went with a righty, Alvarez, of course, a lefty, went with a righty in Max Kranik. Max Kranik in the top of the sixth gave up a 2-out, 2-run homer by Eugenio Suarez to left field to tie the game at 2, despite Kranik having had Suarez down in the count at 1.12. And this was a no-doubter, went a projected 415 feet per StatCast. Kranik officially charged with 1 run in 2/3 of an inning. Now, the bullpen otherwise was quite good in this game, but Kranik was not. We know why the Nats did this. I don't know that anyone was surprised that the Nats did this. You know, Alvarez also is someone who the Nats tend to manage in a pretty conservative fashion. So when the decision was made, I know Alvarez was at 73 pitches. I didn't think that much of it. I'm like, well, this is what they do. You know, they live by the platoon. They die by the platoon. But the decision clearly did not work out. And with this bullpen as questionable as it is, this is where you get into this territory. And we've talked about this before of as much of a strict adherence as this team displays with the platoon. Can you still have that kind of strict adherence when the bullpen is as bad as it is? And sure enough, the bullpen came back to bite the Nats with what happened with Kranik giving up that home run.
So Butera said that his pitch count was getting up there into the 70s, and they believe that that's when he does sometimes run into trouble.
He was up into the mid to upper 70s pitch count wise, and that's kind of where we've been keeping him, and kind of where he starts to tail off a little bit.
You had this pocket of right-handed hitters coming up, and yes, he's correct about all of that. But it's not like he labored to get to that point in the game. He was cruising. He had retired 11 batters in a row and then gave up a little dribbler infield single that almost rolled foul and bounced off the base, and that's when he pulled him. I understand the numbers would say that a right-hander has a better chance against those hitters, Myers and Suarez. But at some point, don't you have to look at not just the handedness, but in that moment, who do you have more confidence in? Andrew Alvarez, who's pitching maybe his best game of the season, has not shown any signs of laboring. I get it. He's up there in a territory that he doesn't often get to, but he didn't seem like he was struggling at all at that point. Or a reliever who hasn't pitched that much for you up here. It's not like he's already proven himself as a lockdown guy against righties in big spots. He just hasn't done that here yet. We know what the history with this team and with their bullpen this year has been. As you mentioned earlier, Alvarez has not been prone to give up the home run at all. Suarez, one of the best home run hitters in baseball for years now. Yeah, he could have given it up, but don't you feel like in that moment it made more sense to let him try to get through it? And if he did give it up, well, okay, so be it. As opposed to bringing in somebody, it's not like they brought in Rebalta, even Beater, even the new guy Cruz, who you could say, boy, that's a big right-handed arm to come in and face these right-handed hitters. No, it's Max Kranik. And I just don't love that lack of a feel for the moment. And final point on this, and heard this years ago, and I've heard it from several other baseball people across the decades. Never make a move that perks up the other team's dugout. Andrew Alvarez is cruising. You think the Reds were upset to see him come out of the game? They were happy to see anybody else come in. Don't give the other team reason to perk up by making a move that may look right on paper, but doesn't necessarily feel right in the moment. I think that's what happened here.
Why do you think, though, that Butera went with Kranik? Like, why Kranik? Why not somebody else?
I guess it had to do with they're still in the 6th inning, and you're going to need probably your other better relievers later in the game, which they did. They used Cruz and Beater, and they had Rebalta warming in the 9th until they expanded the lead, and then they sat him down. as we've discussed, sometimes the sixth inning can be just as important, if not more important. Maybe they didn't anticipate that to be the case. It felt like this was all predetermined from the beginning. Alvarez, if he's going well, is going to face the lineup twice, and then he's going to face the top two hitters. And then once those righties come up, we're going to the bullpen. And Kranik, you're the first man up from the right side. And then we'll get to Cruz and Butera and the rest of them. And you have to be able to adapt in the moment to what's going on and just not trust a situation like that to somebody who, at least on this team, has not proven himself for a situation like that.
See, what I don't get is Kranik, because if you are an analytically inclined team, you don't care what inning it is, right? Like if a guy is on base, as was the case here, and the heart of the Reds order is coming up, as was the case here, then you deploy a Revolta or a Yovanny Cruz or whoever you deem as one of your top relievers in that spot. And I'm a little surprised the Nats didn't do that there, that they went with Max Kranik. But like I said, beyond what happened with Kranik, the Nats bullpen was good in this game. This so far has been a really good series for the Nats bullpen, all things considered. Yovanny Cruz, again, was impressive. Now, it wasn't smooth, I'll grant you that, but he tossed a scoreless top of the seventh, despite issuing a leadoff walk and despite giving up a two-out single. He generated a three-pitch swinging strikeout of the Reds' number one batter, Elly De La Cruz, with runners at the corners for the third out, as we had Cruz striking out De La Cruz, and Yovanny Cruz per StatCast average four-seam fastball velocity of exactly 100 miles per hour. This guy's stuff is electric. We talked about him on the last installment of the podcast. I mean, he has closer written all over him. It's just a matter of, can he harness that extreme velocity in the proper way and avoid the walk? But I mean, so far, I don't know how you're not enticed, excited by what this guy can potentially be for the Nats. And then Clayton Butera tossed a scoreless and hitless top of the eighth. The Nats had a big bottom of the eighth, and Tom Cosgrove tossed a perfect top of the ninth with two strikeouts. Overall, good stuff from the bullpen, but I really think the emerging item with the bullpen is Yovanny Cruz and what the Nats could have in him. You know, this team has had very few relievers who can throw like he can throw. What this team could potentially get out of this guy if he can channel that velocity in the proper way, really exciting to think about.
All right, I do have to pick a little bone with you. I listened to the episode that you and Tim did, and you were bragging about Cruz, and you had mentioned that he averaged 101.5 with his fastball. I was like, wow. You know, I'll admit I did not watch the game on Friday night. I was with family, and I thought, wow, that's like crazy. So I went and looked it up. He only threw two fastballs, Al, and they were both balls. Okay, so
an average is an average. Remember that. An average is an average.
It is. All right. Now I'm looking at what he did in this game. He threw 5 fastballs. 2 of them were strikes. They did not swing at the others, or at any of them. They were called strikes. They did not swing at any of the 5 fastballs. 101 is great, but you better be able to command it. And so what I was actually more impressed with, to be honest, were the other pitches, the slider and the splitter. It was the splitter that got Elly De La Cruz back-to-back for that strikeout. If he can command that fastball, fantastic. He's got a bright future. But if he can't, he's Henry Rodriguez all over again. And I don't need to relive Henry Rodriguez for anybody who was around for that back in the day. I want to see a guy who at least is able to make you believe that fastball is going to be a strike. And then if those other pitches are actually more effective, lean on those. That's what he seemed to do in this game. There's a lot to be excited about the possibilities here. But boy, I got to see a lot more of him actually being able to command that stuff before I'm declaring him a big league closer, because we've seen time and again how many guys come into this league with a tremendous arm, but if you can't put it where you want to, it makes no difference.
But this guy has upside, and that would be my only real point. This guy has an upside that so few Nats relievers have had. I mean, go through the history of this team since it came here. How many relievers have had this kind of upside? So that to me is what is exciting. But yes, he's far from a finished product. I think we all understand that. Yovanny Cruz, keep making me look good, man. I appreciate it. The Nats so far doing good work in this series. Now get to just 3 games under 500. And, it's a tricky deal, right? Because if you look at the standings, the Nats, and I talked about this with Tim on the last installment of the podcast, like from a standing standpoint, the Nats are still in it. But, if you look at it from this perspective, right? Let's say you need to get to 85 wins to get one of these 3 wildcard spots. And I may be being too conservative in saying that, but let's just say 85 wins. The Nats, to get to 85 wins, still have to get 27 more wins, and just time is running out to get to that point. And so I think that's what you look at here. Like, it's easy to look at the standings and kind of be seduced into thinking, well, they are in it. And from a standing standpoint, they are. But in order to get to that mid-80s win total that you would think is required to get one of these wild card spots, it just is such a tall task. So, yeah, I mean, it does kind of feel like it's, I don't want to say impossible, because there is a lot of season left. But it's not going to be easy for this team to do as we thought the team might do when things were really rolling, and that is truly challenged for one of these playoff spots.
Yeah, I think that would be 27-15 the rest of the way, which would be a big number. If you still have Luis Garcia, Curtis Mead, Foster Griffin, and a healthy James Wood, I might feel like that was at least within the realm of possibility. Without them, that's a tall task to pull off. And then on top of that, and I've mentioned this throughout the summer, to me, it's not even as much about how many games back they are or what win total they need to get to. It's how many teams are still in front of them. I think it's 6 teams still that they're chasing down for that wild card spot. As we move along here, every single night, somebody from that group is going to win. Probably multiple teams from that group is going to win. And so it's hard to actually gain ground, even if you're winning yourself. I don't want to rule it out. Of course, they should play hard. They should do what they can, try to finish with as many wins as they can and see where it takes them. But I do hope, as I mentioned the other night, that they don't use that as an excuse to not make sure they get a good look at the younger players that they have who could be a part of the future. We didn't get into Jorby Bibas in this game. It was not pretty what he did for them. And I'm not saying Brady House would have done better, but it couldn't have done much worse than Bibas did, who, in addition to everything else, struck out with runners in scoring position and nobody out and wasted both ABS challenges in one at bat. Then he almost took out CJ Abrams on a pop-up down the line. I'm not trying to pick on one guy, but I think it's become a pretty good, it's emblematic of what this team is doing in thinking that the lefty-righty platoon is worth the advantage there for them if you're trying to win games and be in a pennant race. And there's nothing wrong with trying to win games, but I think just as important the rest of the way has to be getting as much of a look as your young players as you can so that you feel like you know what you have going into next season, a year in which they should go into the year believing they have a chance to contend.
Yeah, 27-16 is what the Nats would have to do over their final 43 games of the regular season to get to 85 wins, a .628 winning percentage. That would be quite the clip to get to 85 wins. Not impossible, but definitely difficult to do. So Game 3 of this series, Sunday afternoon at 12:15, a Peacock game. The Nats going with a bullpen game. Brad Lord will be the team's starting pitcher. We have a shout out to deliver. It comes to us from Gretchen, who wants to wish her husband Harold a happy 66th birthday. Harold was at the very first Nats game at RFK in 2005, has been a Nats Chat listener since day one. Happy birthday, Harold. Thank you very much for listening to the podcast. And know this about Harold, the day on which he was born in 1960, the Washington Senators won at the Kansas City Athletics 3-1 on a 2-run homer in the top of the 12th by Harmon Killebrew. How about that? So on the day on which Harold entered this earth, great things happened for Washington, D.C. baseball.
Harold and Harmon, that's a nice combination. A couple of D.C. legends right there. Very happy birthday to you. Thanks for the support, listening to the show, and hope you get to see many more exciting moments both this year and beyond in your Nats fandom.
Nats Chat is on the radio Sunday morning 9 to 10 on ESPN Richmond, which is 106.1 FM in the Richmond, Virginia area, and Sunday morning 9 to 10 on ESPN Radio 94.1 in the Virginia Beach area. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat podcast.
Big righty sets. He kicks and fires. Swing and a miss. He struck him out with a splitter off the outside. Cruz goes hopping off the mound, striking out Elly De La Cruz to strand 2. Nice work there by Yovanny Cruz.